Hello, and welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Fatchett.
Snug?
Yeah, sure, just a second. If you haven't listened to the podcast before, in addition to providing you thought-provoking and helpful photography-related content, I also go on adventures with the crew of the Starship Fibonacci. Right now, Golden Hour and I are waiting in an empty hangar bay to meet a contact of Hamdo Baines who's going to point us towards the Caribbean Nebula.
Snug?
Hey, just let me introduce the episode, okay? On this episode of the podcast, I talked to Michae Allen from UmbrellaStock about representation in stock photography, as well as what photographers should consider when getting into stock photography.
Snug.
Fine, I'll drink it. Oh my God, that's terrible. Pour me another one. You made this on the ship? What's it called?
Snuggin.
Yeah, we have something similar on Earth called a mind eraser. Hamdo's contact better show up soon, or we might not remember the directions they give us. Stick around after this short break for my talk with Michae Allen. Hey there, loyal listeners. It's that giving time of year again. It can be very hard to find gifts for photographers around the holidays, mostly because we usually want an expensive piece of gear, but also because a lot of things depend on the type of camera we use. The Nerdy Photographer has solved this problem with our annual holiday gift guide for photographers and videographers. This hand-curated list is full of great holiday gift ideas starting from less than $10. Whether you're looking to buy something for the photographer in your life or you want to give some ideas to your family and friends on what to give you, it's definitely worth a look. Just head over to nerdyphotographer.com and check out our 2020 holiday gift guide.
Hey, does your web host really suck? I mean, does it crash all the time? Is your site getting hacked? I had that same experience for many years. My old web host, my site would go down, it seems like once a week. There were always these brute force attacks that would slow it down, and they kept telling me that it was my problem to deal with. That's why I moved over to SiteGround. SiteGround is fast and inexpensive. You can get WordPress hosting for just $3.99 a month. Yep, $3.99 a month. That's pretty cheap. So head over to nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/SiteGround. That's nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/SiteGround.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I am here today with my guest, Michae from UmbrellaStock. Welcome, Michae.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about UmbrellaStock.
Okay, so I'm a photographer in my own right. A-Sharp Photos is the name of my company, and I've been doing that for a while. And I have a friend who does like background vocals for a lot of gospel singers. And she was like, "Hey, can you come shoot my event?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can come shoot it as long as I can, use the footage because I've been shooting stock imagery for quite some time." She was like, "Yeah, just come. It's cool." So I shot the stuff and I submitted it to the stock company, and they were like, "Hey, you needed a press release for this or a press pass." I'm like, "What press pass? It's the pastor's anniversary. There's no press pass." And I was complaining about it to my business coach, and he said, "Why don't you just make your own stock imagery company?" Like, well, yeah, there we go. So I did that. And as I did it, the other thing that kind of fell into place was I would talk to other Black business owners, and they would talk about the fact that they had a real hard time finding just basic lifestyle stuff of Black people. So just Black person drinking coffee, or a little Black girl playing, or just kind of normal stuff. There's tons of model stuff out there,
Right.
but just regular kind of photography is hard to find. So
It's hard to find that. That lifestyle, the representation
exactly.
in stock photos.
Yeah, it's there, but you got to dig for it. So I'm like, well, with UmbrellaStock, that's all there is. And when I say that, of course, I shoot everything, but my focus is creating that type of content.
Creating lifestyle content of the people of color.
Exactly. Yeah.
So why would you recommend that photographers consider getting into stock photography?
So there's a huge market for it. In general, right? So if you are in business for yourself, you can go after consumers, or you can go after the other businesses, kind of B2B work.
Right.
So the difference is a consumer might want to spend the money or they might not. The business owner says, listen, I got a $10,000 budget that I got to spend on photography. Am I going to spend it with you? Or am I going to spend it with the other guy? So as a business owner, which is what you are as a photographer,
right.
You want to put yourself in a position where people need your work and not just want your work.
Right. And the thing is with stock photography, I feel that there are things that people are definitely looking for and like can't find. Like they might not have the budget to have someone to hire a photographer for a shoot for
Right.
everything that they need. They might have some specific things like photos of themselves or the storefront or whatever that is, but there might be a lot of other little things that come up, especially for like social media, because we're always creating content. Like as business owners, like I do it for my photography business, I do it for nerdy photographer. There's a constant need for visual and video content. And
it's also passive income.
Yeah.
That's the other benefit. If you're a photographer, you've done your photographer, so you probably do a shoot, you shoot 300 frames, you probably only give the client or the client only picks 20. So now you got 100 pictures that are just collecting dust on your hard drive. And that's a great use for your images, stock imagery. At least give them a chance, to bring you back some money without you having to do any additional work.
Right.
Yeah.
And making sure that you have the correct releases, obviously, for that sort of stuff. But
right.
Also, finding a second life for those photos. Like I always try to do that with things whenever I travel anywhere, whenever I'm doing a shoot. Like when I can find something that I feel like is going to have some sort of life beyond this shoot. It's not just something also like not just the, creative photographer stuff that you see on Instagram, like people with smoke bombs and stuff, which is just like overly saturated in any sort of stock stuff that I see now. It's like there's always like 500 people with like smoke bomb face. Like no, like you need something. You need stuff that stands out, like because that's what's gonna like. If anybody's looking at a stock photography site for their images, they want like, and first they're looking for what that picture, like that picture that really suits the need that they're looking for. Like you said, something that they need, not just want. But then, like after that, it's a matter of the creative element of it. If they're seeing something that there's like 8 images that are pretty much the same, and then there's a 9th image that is just that's different. That different image is going to obviously catch their attention, and then they're going to want to, that's the one they want because they want to stand out from the crowd as well.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question then is, is there a market for stock photography? I mean, can photographers, you think of it as, you said, passive income, but like what sort of range can, photographers make as far as money?
So you really want to build a large library. So the bigger your library, the more you're looking at bringing in. And then the other thing to consider is video, of course, pays more than photo. So I would say, can you make a living off of it? It's possible. I think it's more of a thing that you kind of compile over time as you go. So it's almost like, investing in your 401k. You're not going to be rich tomorrow, but in 20 years, if you've been doing what you're supposed to be doing, I'm not saying it's going to take 20 years to make any type of money as a stock photographer. What I'm saying is, just keep shooting and keep putting it in there, because if you don't put anything in the bank, you definitely get nothing.
Right.
You know.
And that's the thing you need to think about is like that. I think there are too many people who think that they're going to, just off that, like you said, I'm going to get rich tomorrow, or it's going to take 3 months and I'm going to have all the money that I need. And I think part of that has to do with, just sort of it's not a get rich quick scenario. I think that like you said, you have to think of it like your 401k. You're investing your time and, it's slowly going to pay dividends over time.
Right. And the other thing with it is what you don't know is which images are your home run images. You really have no idea. So you take these pictures, you upload them, and like 30 of these pictures, no one ever buys. You love them. No one cares.
Yeah.
So the one picture that you said, okay, I'll take one more picture. And then you uploaded it and you couldn't care less. And that image sells every day.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to constantly put them. Yeah.
But that's the case with any type of photography, I think. You always think, like when I shoot weddings, I'm always like, oh, this is the one. This is the picture that everybody's going to love.
Right.
Everybody's going to go crazy for this picture. And then it's like one that I'm like, what? Why is it that photo? Yeah. It's just, I think it's that way with it, like with everything though. Like there are ones that you think are the home run that just like, it's the bunt down the third baseline and it maybe gets you maybe you scratch out a single, but it's those other ones that come out of nowhere. Yeah, that just surprise you and everybody's like, oh, that's great. It's fantastic. I love that. So, I mean, kind of like skimmed over this in the beginning of our talk, mentioning the sort of like lack of representation in people of color in stock photography. I mean, I can say that I noticed it. Like when I was looking for things sort of at the beginning of the year, looking for images having to do with I had a post about racism in the photography industry, and I could not find anything.
Which is awesome if you think about it, like from an irony standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it really kind of drives the point home, doesn't it?
So it's not necessarily racism then, it's erasure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's erasing. It's not represented at all.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing that I find there as well is that, in looking through it, it's a lot of white people doing stuff. And that I don't know if that is because the market really drives those things. Like you're saying, you're coming across business owners, like Black business owners who are looking for images of, Black people, like lifestyle images of Black people. And I'm sure there are people who are looking for, all sorts of, variety of, of stock photography. Like I'm confused as to why it's only, a bunch of white people doing stuff. But I think that maybe the photographers don't understand that market is out there. And that they could actually be cornering that market by creating the content now, as opposed to, forcing these businesses to, look around for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a couple of things, right? It's just the idea of one population. Like, I mean, Black people in the U.S. are like at about 13 or 14%. So numbers alone, that's probably where we would sit on the stock market. I mean, at the most, 13%. That's not wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just that, if you don't know where to look for that 13%, it's more difficult to find. And then as a photographer, you're going to shoot what you like and or what you're familiar with,
right.
Or what you're close to. So if you're not in a specific environment, I remember when in like my 20s, I was in this organization called the AmeriCorps, and I met white people who had never seen a Black person before they saw me. People from like South Dakota and places like that. Like literally, I've never seen a Black person in my life. Can't beat up on that person for not having stock images in their portfolio. Yeah. There's nobody there, for them to photograph.
Right.
So I don't think it's a bad thing or a wrong thing. It's just that's why I'm here. As a matter of fact, don't do it. because if you do it, then I have less images to
Right.
sell.
I'm not suggesting that, I'm not suggesting that I'm going to go out there and do it, or that white people should go out and like do this. But I think that there are, I think that there are, Black and Latino and, photographers out there who don't realize that this
Yeah,
could
right.
be
That's the issue.
a source of
Exactly.
passive income for them. This is a
Right.
sort of commercial photography that they could be engaging in and probably making some money in. Like I said, not getting rich off of it immediately, but like this is something you could make some dollars off of. And if you want to do this in the long term, making yourself profitable.
Because you're shooting anyway. Yeah, like you said, you're shooting anyway. If you're shooting anyway, then it's almost like putting money in a savings account.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Hey, take 10% of your images and put it in the stock site, and let it do what it's going to do.
Right. Yeah, you're saving for yourself. Over the long term, it will pay you back over time. And and just like, and you do plus size boudoir. So that's we talk about representation, like in finding, and like a lot of people talk about there, finding a niche or finding like something that other people don't do. Like right now, especially, like people are not doing stock images of, like I would say, especially Black and Latin people are not showing up in most stock sites that I've seen. There is a number of Asian representation, which I think has to do with like there's just a large number of like Asian photographers who like just submit to those stock sites. I think that's the only, like, it's not on Getty or things like, or sites like that, but I mean like in other stock sites, I think that there are a lot of Asian photographers who submit things, but it's not always necessarily what people are looking for.
Yeah.
I think that people.
Yeah, like I.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I've actually been featured on a stock site for my work, with specifically a plus size Black woman, because it was like, oh well, we don't have as much of these that are quality, that are
Right.
artfully in an image that sells,
Yeah, and I think that's a thing, like representation of size, color, like that people don't realize that there's a need for quality images
right?
of all types of people. There are people out there who will pay money for your images, and I think there's too much of an obsession, like with like model images, especially, of having these very thin people. And sorry to tell you, folks, not everybody's a 28-inch waist or a size 2 or whatever. Like that's just not the majority of folks out there. So like having representation, and there are a lot of businesses that want to have photos that represent all of their clientele.
Here's the thought: it's not even just size and color. So I have a friend who he makes T-shirts, and right now he's making a ton of masks. That's like all he's doing. And we were talking about making mock-ups, and how we could kind of diversify with that. And he said, "Listen, man, I really need more pictures of regular people, not models."
Right.
He said, "It's great that you take pictures of them, but most people don't look like that. So it's not even the size. It's, you're absolutely gorgeous, and
Right.
I'm not."
Yeah, and people don't identify with that. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Like when I look at that shirt and I look at you, I'm like, well, apparently that shirt's not for me.
Right. Yeah, I'm not looking at Chris Hemsworth wearing this T-shirt and going, "Hey, that look good on me."
Right. Like I actually don't want the shirt at all now.
Yeah, I feel turned off almost by looking at it. No, because like turned off and I'm buying it because I want to see myself in it. And I don't necessarily always want to see someone who looks exactly like me. I want someone who looks fairly similar to me. I want to know, especially when it comes to clothes, I want to kind of have a feeling of what it's going to look like on me, as opposed to, Chris Evans or like those, that type of build. Like, because I don't have that build.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's important to even as photographers. If you're creating stock, then make sure you're shooting people that just like look like average people. Everybody doesn't have to stop a train with their look.
Right. Yeah, and it's yeah, like we were saying, representation isn't just about size and color. It's about all sorts of things. It's just about, like, especially in the stock industry, where you're hoping to, like, cast a wide net, honestly, and hopefully land the fish over time. But you have to, like, in doing that, like, you're going to get more people coming back to you if you're representing, like I said, more average looking people, as opposed to,
Right.
like, those. I don't know. I guess I keep thinking fashion model is the term that I would use. Um, Models who look like that in stock, there's sort of a limited range. Like, that's much more of like a advertising, I guess, feel to it. Like, that has much more of a, like, you're not going to get some small regional or local business to buy that photo because they're not their ad campaign is not looking to. That's not with who they're pitching to. If that makes
Right.
sense.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think that photographers should be doing to approach planning stock photo shoots? Or do you just use, like, I used to always, when I did it, like, I would plan out, like, I'm going to do a stock session. I'm going to hit these particular, like, setups. But I don't know, how do you go about shooting a stock photo session?
So I guess there's two approaches. There's the what you care about, and what you need to see, as well as what the industry is looking for. So like for instance, like I know me, I like comic books. I'm a photographer. I'm a father. I'm married, so I could shoot within that context. And then the other thing you can do is you talk to the model, or the subject, and say, hey, what do you do? Like, what is your space? um, what things are you into? And then because if you, I have a fear of working out of my own head all of the time, because then things may start to look the same. But if somebody tells me, oh, I'm a, I don't know, I'm a woman and I own a dump truck company. What? Yeah, yeah. I own a dump truck company. I know how to run it. I've been, working dump trucks since I was 13 or something like that. We got to take pictures,
Right.
because that's not out there. And had I not asked, I wouldn't have been able to get that,
Right.
and it's something that's real and somebody has it. So I like to work personally, as cool as it is from my head, I like to work out of somebody else's head more so, because then you get life that they have that you may not have been aware of.
A really interesting way of approaching it. Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of, like, and I think that that's also helps with finding things that are, like I had said before, like, out of the ordinary. Because
Yep.
when you're looking at a lot of stock sites, you'll see things like, I remember looking for stuff like pandemic related things. When I was looking at on stock sites for things for the nerdy photographer, and I was like, wow, every single picture that I'm finding is the same thing. It's just somebody with a mask on, or it's somebody holding a syringe. It was just like, I need some variety here. I need some sort of, like, it's just like, flat background, somebody wearing a mask. Now there's a lot more available,
Right.
7, 8 months later. But, like, at the beginning, it's like you have to kind of think ahead of where things are going to be.
Right. And, I would also say, okay, because a lot of these stock sites give out briefs that said, hey, over the next 2 or 3 months, this is what we're looking for. You got to find a way to shoot that differently, and not just shoot it against, paper or against the wall. Say, okay, I know this is what, they want people in masks. So what can I do that would kind of vary things,
Right. How can you put your own twist on it that is not, so it just isn't like the same, like I said, the same thing. You're, like, looking through those stock sites and you see the same photo pretty much, like, 10 or 15 times, you're like, I don't want that. Like, everybody's going to have that. Nobody's going to pay attention to it. You're looking
Right.
for the new and slightly different thing. The other thing I would say is, if you're planning on doing stock photography, anybody who's listening, think about the negative space in your photo so that people can put text
Absolutely.
over it.
Yep. That's one of my keywords, copy space. And you leave that to the left or the right. And just a side note, and I don't know if it's early for this, but if you go to UmbrellaStock.com/passive-income, I have an application if you're interested in being a contributor, because I am looking for contributors. And the other weird thing, I don't know if we talked about this, is as much as I'm looking for photographers, I'm looking for artists too, because I've looked for black clip art and couldn't find it.
Illustrations. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense too. Like, finding people, like finding, animations, illustrations, all those things end up being used in stock as well. And I think that's, just like you said, as much as people are photographers, I think that looking for other visually creative media of people of color, and it's hard to find. It's definitely very hard to find. And copy space. If you're shooting the image, consider having it, like, obviously people can flip things either way, but think of having, like, headspace, like above or to the left or the right. Like, think about it ahead of time, like, that people who are going to buy this are using it usually to put something over it. And I've definitely I had an image that really, I thought, I was like, I really would like to use that photo, but then I'm like, but I can't put what I need on it. It's just not going to fit without cutting off the subject of the photo. And then, what's the point? Because I can't get the text in there, and it just ends up becoming like, it ends up becoming kind of a mess. And then you have to choose something that affords you that space.
Right. Yeah. I'm a headshot photographer too, so that's something I pretty much shoot that way. So I always think about that.
What do you think are the biggest, like, the most common mistakes that photographers make when they're either setting up a stock shoot or they're trying to sell stock photos?
Well, one, the first thing you said, photos are way too tight, so there is no copy space. Also, just there's a slightly higher standard of image. I mean, of course, we all want quality all of the time, but because these images may be bigger, or they may be blown up and put in certain spaces, you can't have a lot of noise in them. So there's a way that you have to shoot. And it doesn't have to be overly studio produced. You can do natural light photos, but it has to look a certain way. I think one thing I've caught myself doing is, like, when you go to Walmart or Target and you see those big pictures, just take 5 seconds and look at it. That's what people are looking for. Right. Whatever you see up there, that's what's being looked for.
Somebody bought that. Yeah.
Yep.
And most of the time,
so that's the style.
That is an excellent way to show people, like, what is going on, like, in like what's getting bought by, like, larger corporations. What they're looking for is that, see that stuff, in any store, not just Walmart especially.
Yep.
Like, if you go into any store,
eyeglasses everywhere. Yeah.
That's and most of the time that is where they're getting that stuff. They might, large chains like Walmart maybe, like, pay somebody to shoot specific things, but apart from, like, whatever is very, like, Walmart specific, the rest of it they're buying from stuff.
Yeah, I was like, oh no. Yeah. It's normally a really light and airy, style that looks like it's natural light, which, don't be fooled. It might not be, but it looks like it,
Yeah, that's sort of the they make it look like lifestyle.
Yep.
Outside lifestyle type shots, or these, I don't know. My favorite is that sort of, it's sort of that catalog feel. I don't know. That's the. It always looks like, oh, these houses have like 1,000 windows, because how can you possibly have that much natural light in there? Yeah, it's most likely not.
Yeah. Yeah. 70-inch umbrellas all over the places, bouncing off of walls. And yeah. And then, of course, I think the other thing you forget is the post-processing. There's something thrown on there, to pull that out. So.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of, I think how you post produce your images plays into how you light your photos from the beginning, and B, how you post produce them has a lot to do with how it's affected by how it affects the saleability of your image.
Yep.
And honestly, what I would say, I don't know, you might feel differently. As someone who looks at those pictures, I wouldn't overly do it on like the post production, because I see like these, unless it's something really specific, like I see these like really contrasty images. It's just like, I don't necessarily want that for a stock photo that I'm using for something, because I can go in there and adjust it afterwards if I really wanted that look. But if I'm paying for this, I might want it, like, I would not necessarily neutral, but like just don't going over the top in the, color toning, I guess is the word. Yeah,
No, I agree. It should be pretty flat. I mean, unless, like if the idea is, off to the left, then that's the idea. But if you took, a picture of someone just standing outside, don't yank it all the way to the right or to the left, because like you said, you have to leave it to the person, who's purchasing the image to do what they want with it. And then the other thing to think about is in this age of people are really conscious of body acceptance and body positivity. And like I say, because I work with plus size women, you want to be careful about shaping or sculpting people's bodies.
Right.
I think Shutterstock asks you to say, hey, if you did something to this image, we need to know. So that way we can let people know that something was done to this image. And I personally, I wouldn't even really bother with it. Again, leave that to the artist or the client to do that.
Leave it to their graphics department if they have one. If they really want to do that, that's up to them.
Yep.
Excellent. I think that's a great place to wrap up. And then if you're interested, as Michae had said, head over to UmbrellaStock. You can give them the website address.
Yes. So, of course, if you would love to be, and I would love to have you as a contributor, you can go to UmbrellaStock.com/passive-income. And there's a small application there where it just kind of asks you who you are, some information. It asks you for your portfolio link. Please give me that so I can take a look at your work, and then we can move forward from there. And if you're like, well, this sounds really interesting, and I'm just getting into photography, or I'm not into photography, but I would love to be, I do have a course, where I can help you with that and get you on the right road.
Hey, photographers! The Nerdy Photographer Podcast wants to hear your stories. That's right. If you have an amazing, crazy, funny, heartwarming, or even tragic or disturbing story you've personally experienced as a photographer, we want to hear about it. Go to nerdyphotographer.com and submit your story, or stories, doesn't have to be just one, and we may feature them on the podcast. And if you want, you can tell the story yourself on the podcast. We would love to have you on as a guest. What have you got to lose? Share your photography story with us and see what develops.
AF 2.0, why don't you tell the audience what time it is?
And now for my favorite part of the show. What's that say? Useless information. This is always death.
And now it is time for useless information. Today's useless information is golf balls have little dimples on them. Do you know how many dimples there are on a golf ball, Michae?
352.
You're very close. It's 336.
Wow.
That's actually how you symmetrically cover a golf ball in dimples. And the symmetry is actually what helps it fly further.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, this is a little bit of useless information for you. Thank you for being on the Nerdy Photographer Podcast, and we hope to have you back soon.
Thank you. You take care.
And we're back. Well, many thanks to Michae Allen for being our guest. Please head over to UmbrellaStock.com/passive-income if you'd like to submit your photos for consideration. You can also follow Umbrella Stock on Twitter at UmbrellaStock Inc. and on Instagram at UmbrellaStock.inc. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Nerdy Photo. Please subscribe to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and please leave us a review as well. Every review helps. All right, Nerdy Photographer to Fib. Doesn't look like our contact is showing up. You can pick us up at Hangar. Let me see what this Hangar designation is. Oh, there it is. OKCRL. You got that? Oh, wait. Who are these guys?
You're not authorized in here.
Okay, we were just leaving.
Snug.
Okay, let's all just relax.
Set blasters on full.
Snug!
Blast them.
Okay, I'd just like the record to show that I did indeed shoot first.
Snug, 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 snug.
Yes, but you shot more times. I'll give you that. Yeah, probably best we get out of here. And quickly. Until next time, folks, stay safe and stay nerdy.
Who's that coming back to town? You better start listening. Who's your heart been beating about? You better listen.
Yar, what is it, Mickey?
I hate paying these stupid subscription fees to Adobe for Photoshop and Lightroom.
Ye be wanting software that ye can be downloading and owning
Yar!
that allows ye to manage your library of photos like Lightroom, yet also enhance ye photos like Photoshop.
Yar!
What have I told ye? That such software exists and is cheaper than paying for a subscription to Photoshop and Lightroom for just 1 year.
I'd say you be crazy.
Well, I not be crazy. Ye should check out Luminar.
Luminar?
Yes, Luminar. It has libraries that allow you to manage ye catalog of photos, tag and organize your pictures. Then you can enhance your photos, smooth skin, remove unwanted objects, apply presets, even replace the sky using Luminar 4's AI engine.
Whoa!
Yes, it be impressive. Yet, ye can even use it as a standalone program or as a plugin for Photoshop or Lightroom to take your photo editing to the next level.
Do I need a map to find it?
Nay, ye can get thee to nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/Luminar.
Where they be?
nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/LUMINAR.
Arr.
Yar. Yeah, yar.
Yar, yar, yar.
Yar, yar.